Infidelity is often portrayed through obvious betrayal or physical disloyalty, but some of the most emotionally gripping stories are those that explore the absence of infidelity while still holding space for its shadow. A story can carry the same weight, tension, and emotional complexity as a tale of cheating, without ever explicitly crossing that line. In fact, what's left unsaid can be more powerful than what is spelled out. That's the core of this approach, focusing on emotional distance, unspoken loneliness, and the invisible cracks in relationships that lead to misunderstanding, pain, or shocking realizations, all without depicting actual infidelity. The idea here is to mirror the feeling of betrayal without showing betrayal itself. When someone's partner is emotionally unavailable, constantly absent, or slowly drifting away, the partner left behind begins to experience a hollowing out of connection. Their pain, confusion, and quiet yearning become the heartbeat of the story. When you combine that with a child's perception, a son watching his mother slip into emotional solitude, you create a new kind of heartbreak. The emotional neglect that exists between husband and wife becomes something the child begins to internalize even if no one speaks about it. Children are far more perceptive than adults give them credit for. They notice the silence in the kitchen, the quiet dinners, the way a mother sighs when she thinks no one is watching. They catch glimpses of text messages, overhear phone calls, or watch a face change when a certain name lights up a phone screen. These moments are rarely discussed, but they create emotional residue. And when a child acts out in response to that, either by confronting, questioning, or disappearing, it feels shocking. Not because something scandalous has occurred, but because something has been brewing for a long time, unseen. The emotional focus shifts from physical acts to emotional presence. Is the husband truly present, even when he's home? Is the wife reaching out, emotionally or otherwise, because she's trying to stay afloat? Is the child becoming the emotional glue, or worse, the one holding all the tension and secrets? By telling a story that dances near the edge of infidelity without falling into it, the narrative becomes more universal. More people can relate to the feeling of being emotionally abandoned than to a textbook affair. And it's that emotional abandonment, loneliness inside a marriage, emotional invisibility in a family, silence in a room filled with people, that becomes the true antagonist. This kind of story leans heavily on imagery and atmosphere. The sound of rain on a window, a photo left on a bed, a mother sitting alone in the dark. These visuals carry emotional weight. They don't need to say, someone cheated, because the ache is already there. It's the unspoken hurt that makes the story powerful. And in the end, it's not about what happened. It's about what was felt. That's the space where true storytelling lives. Realism in storytelling isn't built on dramatic plot twists or exaggerated emotions. It's built on the quiet moments that mirror real life. The awkward silences at the dinner table, the way someone avoids eye contact, or the way a teenager slams their bedroom door a little too hard but never explains why. The goal is to tell a story that feels like it could have happened next door, in the house down the street, or in your own family. That kind of grounded realism doesn't rely on scandal. It relies on truth, and truth is often quiet. A story based on realistic events gives the audience something to emotionally connect to. For instance, a mother waiting up late, folding laundry while glancing at the clock, worrying about why her son hasn't come home yet. That's not unusual. But the tension underneath, the part she doesn't say out loud, is what adds emotional gravity. She's not just waiting for her son. She's carrying the weight of a fractured marriage, of being alone too often, of feeling unseen. Her actions may be small, but the emotions behind them are enormous. Small conflicts can carry enormous meaning. A teenager leaving a handwritten note instead of speaking his feelings out loud is more believable than a dramatic confrontation. A mother noticing that her son's room has gone quiet is more powerful than a phone call revealing a secret. Father being physically present only once a month can create a deeper wound than one who leaves altogether. These kinds of emotional dynamics, subtle and real, build a story that doesn't have to shout to be heard. Characters should act like real people, imperfect, uncertain, layered. A mother might not know how to talk to her son about what he saw. A son might be angry without understanding why. These emotional complexities are human. A parent can love their child fiercely and still make mistakes. A child can be deeply perceptive and still confused. The realism lies in those contradictions, in the fact that no one has the right words at the right time, and sometimes silence becomes the most painful kind of communication. The setting matters too. A story told in the soft gray of a rainy evening, in a quiet neighborhood, in a house that feels too big when one person is gone. Those details create a feeling of intimacy and isolation. Rain doesn't just fall. It muffles sound, makes everything feel slower, heavier. A church down the block isn't just a location, it's a symbol of refuge, confession, and unanswered prayers. These familiar spaces make the story feel close to home. Every action should be motivated by something deeper. The son doesn't just run away because he's rebellious. He does it because he feels unheard. The mother doesn't cry in the kitchen for no reason. She cries because she's holding everything together while falling apart inside. These small human moments form the emotional structure of a realistic story, where the pain is subtle, but the impact is unforgettable. A child's action, especially when unexpected or emotionally charged, can shift the entire emotional direction of a story. In a household where tension is quietly building, where emotions are suppressed and things are fine on the surface, the child becomes the one who unknowingly or deliberately breaks the silence. What makes this effective in storytelling is not the act itself, but the motivation behind it and the emotional aftermath it triggers. The son's choice should be believable, rooted in something we understand. A cry for attention, a search for truth, or a response to what he's silently witnessed in the home. The shock comes not from a dramatic or criminal act, but from a deeply emotional one. For example, a teenage son disappearing for an hour and leaving behind a photo with a cryptic message isn't shocking because of the act of leaving. It's shocking because of what it reveals, that he's been watching, analyzing, hurting in silence, that he understands more than his parents think, that he's been emotionally involved in a conflict that was never meant to involve him. His action becomes the mirror the adult never wanted to look into. It reflects all the quiet mistakes, the distracted dinners, the late-night phone glances, the emotional absences. He becomes the catalyst for the truth that no one was ready to say out loud. And the moment he speaks, whether it's in a whisper, a written note, or an act of silence, the weight of the family's emotional disconnection comes crashing in. His words don't need to be poetic or dramatic. In fact, the simpler they are, the more devastating they feel. The son's behavior must remain within the realm of realistic teenage emotion. He shouldn't be perfect. Maybe he's sarcastic, withdrawn, or moody. But beneath that, there's vulnerability. Maybe he's been pretending not to care, burying his feelings in music, video games, or isolation. Then one day, he leaves a note, or asks a question his mother never expected to hear, or sits outside in the rain just to see if anyone notices he's gone. That's what delivers the emotional punch, not the scale of the act, but the rawness of intention. This act, however, small, should expose the emotional gap between parent and child. The parent who believed they were protecting the child by not speaking their truth realizes that the silence caused more harm. The child, who never wanted to be involved in adult issues, ends up being the one who names the pain. In doing so, he not only expresses his own hurt, but forces the parent to confront their own. The story shifts from being about a broken marriage to being about what the silence of that brokenness does to those around it. The son becomes the voice of everything that's been unspoken. And when the mother realizes that her pain has become her son's burden, the shock is not in what he did, but in the clarity of his perception. His act isn't just dramatic, it's emotional truth made visible.